All right, ladies, here we come together in our sacred circle. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I got a note this morning that Laura is not able to join. And Nina, you just got a message from Magenta, right?
Yes, it's Magenta's mom's birthday, so she may or may not join us for this in time, but she's with all of us energetically.
Happy birthday, Magenta's mom.
Yes, happy birthday, Magenta's mom.
As the clock strikes 11:11. All right, ladies, really quickly, let's step up into our hearts. Just soft to center the energy. So imagine, focus your attention on the area of the heart, imagining the breath is flowing in and out of your heart space, breathing a little slower and deeper than usual. A cadence of 4 to 5 seconds is a great place to start, or whatever is more comfortable for you. And then actively make a sincere attempt to activate a feeling of appreciation, care, love, and compassion for all who are gathered here today and those that are listening in this now moment or in a future moment. And let's just hold that for a few seconds. And let's bring it back together. Now that we are in the Sacred Heart, we welcome Jenny to the sacred table today, who joins us from New Zealand at 3:12 in the morning. Absolutely beautiful and glowing.
Thanks, Paula.
Tara, Nina, and Chrissy. So thank you, ladies, for joining today. And as Chrissy had suggested, and so timely for the eclipse and full moon, I believe, which is happening in a couple of hours, we're going to dig into the shadow today, the shadow side. And that requires clearing, healing on an individual level and on a collective level, because this is the time of the reckoning, the facing of oneself and its creation. So we have to look at our stuff and heal that. So a couple of things maybe we can start with, if it's okay, a little bit of logistics. So with the Divine Feminine Roundtable, the group that we have created together as a collective, I want to remind folks that you will not be allowed to attack another. When you attack another, I would invite you to request that your higher self show you where that anger comes from. And I just want to start with, and you might want to write this down for the folks that are listening. You cannot judge a path another has chosen that you have decided that you have not chosen for yourself. You cannot judge the path another has chosen that you have not claimed for yourself. So if you're looking at someone outside of you and wanting to make them wrong or attack them, then I would invite you to look within yourself to see where the root of that struggle is. And we must treat each other with love and compassion, because compassion is recognizing when another is in struggle and being kind to them. So I just wanted to kick that off with that little bit. And I'm going to hand it over to whoever wishes to start.
Can I add something to that? Because I posted about it yesterday on in the group as well, that a lot of people seem to think that the group is about, that it's like a pro-Trump movement. And I wanted to make it clear that it's not a pro-Trump movement. It just happens to be so that it seems that there's quite a lot of people that like what Trump is doing at the moment, but the group has nothing to do with it. And anyone's opinions are welcome in this group. It doesn't, like I wrote already as a post, it doesn't matter whether you're pro or against or neutral. It's not what it's about. It's not what your opinion is, just your opinion. It's the way we deal with people's opinions. That's what's key. How we respond to other people or outside of ourselves.
Yeah. What we
Just wanted to add that.
don't want, though, is any attacks. We don't want to make somebody else wrong because you don't agree with their opinion. Right? It's respect, because we are showing the way in love and in kindness and in compassion. And everybody has the right to be just as they are, because they're still divine, beyond how they present, beyond how you may see them show up.
I think there's a little bit of a confusion going on here, so I'm just going to speak to it. Because Paula, you put out a post maybe a few weeks ago where you requested that certain things not be shared in that group. And you said that a lot of us were sharing these things on our own personal walls. There were lots of places to share these things, but that's not what that group was for. And it seemed to have a lot to do with conspiracy theories and bashing Trump and things of that nature. So I simply responded in protecting the container of the group, which I feel is our agreement as sisters to back each other up and to not open up that container and say, well, actually, I don't agree with that, so I'm going to let everybody bash you. I don't really think that's really a cool thing to do at all. And I don't think that is integral in how we've come together in any way, shape, or form. And so I was simply saying this isn't the space for this, because what that article did was it started a whole thread of women bashing each other, which was not the intention that that group was created for. And I also spoke to it directly and said, this is not a space for hostility or aggression. Please be kind to each other. And the woman who posted that generally was curious, and she was not trolling. And we had a lovely conversation. But there were women who then jumped on, who were trolling, who I had to remove immediately. I am not putting up with it in my life anymore, and I won't put up with it in our Divine Feminine container. If people start attacking us and saying, you need to go, you know, you're fucking this and you're fucking that and you're stupid and you need to go to this psych ward, and I'm done. I'm not having a conversation about that. So I'm just putting it out there. I don't have time for that in my life anymore.
Yeah, and that's why I said it's the way we respond that we need to look at, and that includes the bashing. You know, it doesn't matter if you post, you know, if out of curiosity you post something as in, look, I read this is bringing this up for me. How do you feel about it? That's a beautiful open question. There's not a blanket statement. We're wanting to research. We're wanting to share with each other and come and see where we find common ground or answers. And then if people then immediately start bashing, that is exactly what the issue is, and it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable because it goes away from a healthy curiosity and a healthy neutral space from which we explore as humans. And that brings me also to the question is how much are we willing to zoom out and step away from everything that we believe and understand that at the end of the day, what is happening outside of ourselves is a projection of what's happening inside of us. And at the moment with this full moon, it seems to just I don't know if I'm the only one noticing it, but there's this massive online catfight going on, you know, of stuff coming up for people, and it immediately goes out and projected out, and it's like and you and this and this and you, and it's everywhere all over social media. And I almost feel like grabbing some popcorn and just sitting down and just watching what's going on. It's just
Yeah, Chrissy, thanks for that. We've just moved in New Zealand. It was at 4:44 p.m. that we had the lunar eclipse and the full moon. So it feels like I've just popped over the hump.
Well, right on. You're leading the path then.
So I'm feeling what has been so present for me, and I love that concept of zooming in, zooming out. And what I want to speak into is what I'm noticing, which both Nina and Chrissy you shared, is this energy of women magnifying whatever is present. So the disturbance, the unrest, the little niggle that is inside, and amplifying and magnifying. And that's actually one of the gifts that we can do. We can freaking amplify everything and anything, negative, positive, whatever it might be. So it starts as a tiny complaint and amplifies, and energetically that is the zooming out, the expanding of a no thing into a thing. It starts as a no thing, and it's suddenly a massive thing. And I've been playing with this idea again. I want to really bring it into the shadow side of things straight away. Is if you look at where we're at, it's the psychology of complaint, the psychology of complaining. And I like to zoom that energy in, zooming it into the human body and zoom it right in with the precision of a surgeon. And when people can zoom the external complaining and keep taking it in, take it into your original weave, take it into your body, take it into your body, take it into your body, what we actually access is one of the most beautiful gifts we ever find in humanity, which is our own sacred complaint. Now, our own sacred complaint lands in direct alignment with what our soul is here to do on this planet. And that's a beautiful place, and that's a beautiful piece. So I get really excited when this complaining energy is out there, because people's nervous systems are stretching into the discomfort that is calling their soul to show up. So I just wanted to place that in this space and honor the sacred complaint, which is revealing itself in a different form right now.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Beautifully said.
So Paula, what is the agreement then? Because I would like to know, so that I know if I'm not meant to censor anything, then I won't. But if we've made an agreement that certain things are welcome and certain things aren't, we need to hold that as a container of sisters and back each other up, I think. And we need to know it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So the agreement is no attacking. You are not going to attack another for what they choose to share, and I'll talk to the sharing part in a minute. You don't attack. If you don't like their opinion and don't like what they've posted, please just continue on and change the channel. But there is no attacking allowed. No debasement, no attacking. And so I say to all the listeners, if Trump triggers you, that is your opportunity to understand where that anger is underneath it, because it doesn't have anything to do with that man. In fact, he's giving you a gift by showing you that something inside yourself requires healing. So the rules, please, of the Divine Feminine Roundtable is, please do not attack. That is not a group for that. We are way showers, and we show the way in love. With respect to political content, as I shared before, most of us are friends on this page, and we can share those controversial, fringy, conspiracy realist or theory or what have you. Please share them on your wall, and you can put a little note saying, I shared something pretty cool on my page. Please visit if you're curious. But otherwise, the page is for support, the gems of wisdom you can have to share anyone else that's part of the group, your favorite books, your favorite channelings, your messages that inspire, uplift, and help to heal. And if you need help with a negative thing that you're experiencing, an emotion, then place that on there. Ladies, sisters, please help me. I'm being triggered by X. I could do with your help and support. Does that make it crystal clear? And is cool with that?
I lost you. No, it just, the whole picture froze. But yes, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, and you're mentioning Trump, but obviously Trump is just one person. I mean, it's just
he seems to
anyone.
He seems to have a wonderful way of triggering a lot of people. So if you're triggered by that person, then that is absolutely an opportunity to understand why. Why are you?
But what I'm saying is that any person who triggers us gives us that opportunity.
Absolutely.
Whoever it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Can be the other way around as well,
Yeah, and here's the reason why it is so important to everybody that is listening right now. If you do not have an internal place of peace to retreat to go to, while the external world is in such chaos and uncertainty, when we finally do shift in consciousness, you know, we are being prepared as best we can. And even those of us who think we know what's going on, we think what's been happening in the shadows, I'm very aware that we are going to be shocked. So if you are not comfortable with your own internal world now, you cannot rely on the external for your peace. You have to create that within as we shift through this huge, because that's what we're at right now, right? The whole point of the shadow with Maxwell being arrested, there's going to be a lot of darkness surfacing, more than any of us can likely comprehend. So we're going to need each other, our support together as much as possible. And that was the whole point of putting these roundtables together, is to support as much as we can the collective to what we're going to be moving through.
And I guess the key of that is that if you feel that energy coming up and going out and going into the blame, you know, to just be really aware that this could mean that there's something to go to inside, you know, that it's easy to go and find somebody who represents that which you get angry at, but to just be really aware of that it is a core wound inside of us. And that brings me to something as well that I was hoping to discuss as well, that's been coming up for me in the last week. And that is that 10 years ago when I had the big vision, I was shown that the astral realm has a major storage of clutter, of collective unconscious stuff that we've done. So we've caused things that we weren't aware of, and the effects of it are the clutter in the astral. And sometimes when I tune into that clutter, I could get overwhelmed, because I'm like, wow, there's so much of that energy of unresolved stuff that is sitting there in that realm. And the question popped up for me is like, how do we deal with that vastness of clutter? And I would love to hear from you ladies, if you've ever tuned in on it, and what your answer is to this. I can feel you, Tara.
I would say one breath at a time, because it can be overwhelming. And what I'm feeling today is the inner child, really, really massively. And so when you're talking about people reacting, and it's like throwing the toys out of the pram, it's children respond and react to things in the way that their parents responded and reacted to them. The child is reacting to how the parent reacted, and that's their struggle right there, is between that child within them and their parent's conditioning. And so when I see people being attacking or mean or hurtful, I'm seeing a really wounded child, actually. And so, of course, you know, you can't let a child just be attacking and hurt themselves and hurt others, and you do have to, you know, parent and say, okay, that's not appropriate, you know, time out, or whatever you need to do. Or if you have the time and the energy and the wherewithal, then to engage in that loving, healing conversation. But the thing is, there is so much that's been buried. I was actually talking about it yesterday. If you think about the layers of the earth, and you know, like in geology or something, or you know, archaeology, and you look through the layers of all the earth, of all of history and all of time and all of humanity, and you can take it all the way back. That's a lot of history. And everything that's ever happened in the physical, of course, it happens in the astral. There's the subconscious stuff that we don't remember. It's all stored there. So the astral plane is like just an area of the library of everything that's ever happened ever. And the thing is with the astral as well, it's really not real. It's a 4D. It's things appearing real that aren't real. And I think as we are moving from this third dimension through up into the fifth dimension, like fully embodying that, the fourth dimension is that realm of going, is my fear real? Is my perception real? Is what I'm seeing in front of me and reacting to real? And it's an initiation to go through that. you don't get to have the higher consciousness without moving through that kind of belt, if you like, that astral belt of information. And it's been happening thousands of years, people having these initiations through that fourth dimension, through the astral. And the way that you do it is actually just, from all my understanding, is understanding, and like you were saying, Jenny, I love what you said, with surgical precision coming back in, but to bring that absolute crystal clear awareness and coming back to the breath first and foremost, one breath, because it's so easy for the inner child to get overwhelmed and start freaking out and feeling lost and insecure and, looking for answers everywhere and really attacking people in an attempt to find answers. I feel that that's what it is. It's a cry for help. It's like, I'm stuck, I need answers, help me. And instead of being able to articulate that in an emotionally intelligent way that they didn't learn from their parents, they haven't learned growing up, it just becomes like a really confused message, which really is saying, help me. That's how I hear it. And so to really not just manage, but utterly transform, utterly disconnect from the overwhelm. It's a bit like a little kid, in their bedrooms, they've got to tidy their bedroom and it's a real mess, and you just sit on the floor like, I can't. It's like that. Just come back to the breath. Just breathe. And let your breath anchor you into your physical form, into the now, and bring you into awareness of something that has far superior intelligence to all of us, that actually knows everything. It is the life force that breathes life into every living thing ever, for always. It knows everything there is to know about life inside that breath. So just being able to reattune, come back to the breath, and through breathing we then feel, right? Because this is a lot of the problem of going up into our head. Yeah, and you're about to say something, Chrissy, because when you don't feel, when you don't breathe, you can't actually connect to your body and connect to what's happening on an emotional level.
Absolutely.
And the subconscious is undealt with emotions in yourself.
Yes.
Of the inner child.
So that's a part, right? But then you're talking about the wounded child. What I'm also seeing is another stream of beings being not so much wounded. They're actually completely disconnected. And I'm sorry to say, I refer a lot to, and I'll probably get some backlash on that one, but a lot of the millennial generation were not raised with as much with nature as we were, because we were raised without devices, without technology. We were just outside with nature. So naturally we were, introduced into the natural ways. A lot of these children now are being born with devices in their hands and are living a digital life. And a lot of these kids, I don't necessarily see them so much as wounded. I see them more as completely disconnected from the natural ways. It's creating, in my opinion, a degraded form of humanity. It's called transhumanism, but I can see that. And I see that the actions of these humans or people that are completely disconnected, that their actions, they are not aware of the effects of their actions, and it's creating a consequence belt around the you can call the fourth dimension. It's hanging somewhere. I can see it hanging somewhere. And I agree with what you're saying, that those people that are still connected to human and are moving to fifth dimension, they go through a clearing process and they go through that. But there's too much in my insight for just these people. There's too much because it's ongoing. It's not getting cleared. It's people are just, more ice cream, more this. How can I serve myself? How can I be, blah, 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 it's like this complete madness that I'm seeing.
A lot of these kids have been born by C-section or by forceps or by artificial delivery. The wound is disconnection. They have parents that are working their asses off, both parents, stress, divorce, split up families. The wound is the disconnection. That is the cry for help. As far as I can see, That's the original wound, is separation, disconnection from the mother, cutting the umbilical. I'm one for lotus birth personally, where you do not cut the umbilical cord until the baby is ready to let it go. You know, these very simple primordial things that are naturally and intuitive when we're connected. And yet when the child is born, cut the cord, cut them out, cut the mother, surgical, steel. And it's like, you know, the majority of the millennials these days are born this way. And please forgive me, I'm not saying, you know, I'm not wanting to judge how anybody chooses to give birth. I'm just saying there's a consequence.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the parenting that these children have had. It's the society they've grown up in that we take responsibility for. We did it. If the children are disconnected and dysfunctional, we did that as a society. And I feel like it's super important for all of us to take responsibility for the children that we have on the planet now and for the children going forward. And the way that we do that, the way that we understand the child and the child's pain, or the teenager's pain, or whatever, is to first look inside and understand our own inner child's pain. Because a disconnected parent from their own inner child, how are you going to be able to parent a child in your life? How are you going to be able to have any kind of understanding?
And I just want to add to that this is the time of the reckoning, right? We have to face our own creations when we do it individually, when we clear for ourselves, when we clear our own inner mark and heal the wounds of our own inner child, right? And there are a ton of methods out there on how to do that. But when we could heal the wounds that we have within ourselves, because I think I've shared this before, the whole suffering of humanity can be reduced to a single idea. And that is that we are separate from source. So you're right, Tara, absolutely right. And you as well, Chrissy. If you know, you've got a millennial growing up who feels disconnected from their parent, they view everybody else as an object and not a human being with a heartbeat and with a soul who bleeds and cries and suffers. Instead, it's just that effing guy who doesn't agree with me. And we have to get back to our commonality, that we share this incredible physicality to express through as a soul in journey, and through our, you could say, our experiences are in innocence, because we made decisions and choices as we went through our life, cluttering up the astral, not knowing, oh shit, I didn't know that was going to happen, right? A lot of it is done in innocence. Some of it might be done, you know, through exploration of the shadow side. And that's what's coming up now to be surfaced, right? To be seen and to be cleared. So you ask about, how do you clear this? You have to shine the light on what you have denied within yourself, the aspects of yourself that you have buried away and hidden behind your back in shame or in guilt. You have to give that to source. Please take this from me. Help me heal this wound. Where have I denied love within myself first? And then when you witness another, you can see them beyond how they're presenting, beyond the known. You see them as a divine being, child of God, in spite of how they behave. But attacking them with another stick is not going to get us peace.
I agree, and it's exactly what I also was told was going to happen. This transition from 3D to 4D to 5D. And at one point, as I was shown as it's playing out, is you're all so excited to get to 4D. The collective is so excited to get to 4D. Everyone wants to say, oh, I'm in 4D. But what you don't understand is that if you're not prepared for 4D in your own individual journey, it is literally going to be like a shit show, an astral shit show. And I'm sorry to say it like that, but that's what we're seeing. Because if you have not healed those wounds within yourself, then what you're dealing with is you're dealing with angels and demons. most of us, since we were children, were tapped into the 4D. I was seeing angels and demons since I was a child. I was very much more in 4D. I didn't know what 5D was until probably about 2 years ago that came through an experience with Christ. And then it was still a transition. But what I'm understanding now is that as people are in 4D, now this is not just a battle that is around the mind. Now what this has become is literally the battle of the heavens coming to earth. It is the astral battle. And so when I'm dealing with someone who immediately starts attacking, and everything you all said, yes, it comes from trauma. Yes, it comes from their inner child. But if they are choosing to say those words, if they are choosing, whether they know it or not, to host those demons, to have that behavior, to attack in such a manner that is ferocious and aggressive and completely not appropriate and is called abuse, and I'm going to call it out because I will not take it in my life anymore, and I will not do it to other people, and we have to say no to it, is that I will meet them and deal with them where they are at. I'm not going to allow people to abuse me anymore because they have a wounded inner child, because that actually only enables their neurosis around the wounded inner child. And we unfortunately have a generation of millennials, and also even in my generation and in all generations, where certain parents enabled that behavior. And so it's caused a bit of a spoiled brat mentality where I'm going to abuse you because that's what I did to my parents to get what I want. I'm going to make you feel guilty. I'm going to shame you. This is how I get what I want. They've never been told no. And when they're told no, that's when they start attacking you the most. And some of them, what they need to hear is no. The demons need to hear no. I'm drawing a line in the sand and you are not welcome to cross. That behavior is not welcome anymore. So it's interesting because also at this time of this opening in this great portal of planetary parade and alignment, Venus going direct, Mars going direct, and it's Venus, it's Mars. I don't remember the other one. If someone knows right now, please jump in. What I was reading and understanding is it's actually about us coming more into our warrior as a collective, but our clear warrior, and saying no to what we will no longer accept in our own lives and in our collective lives. It's about the shadow coming to the surface. It was Aries, also Aries. And it's also about forgiveness and compassion, but speaking the truth more directly than we ever have before, and not being afraid of not being accepted or loved by everyone else, because we're finally standing up and saying, I'm sorry that our society taught us that this behavior is appropriate, but it's not appropriate and I won't allow it anymore in my own life. And I'm not going to engage in this behavior.
You're really right, Nina, in leading with I'm sorry. In leading with, I recognize there's a wound here, and I see you, and I have compassion and empathy, and I connect with you and understand. However, it's not okay, and I am disconnecting from you. Yeah. But I love you because they're a part of ourselves at the end of the day.
They are.
Right? But in all the energy healing and clearing and shadow work stuff that I've seen around, and I've been in this healing environment my whole life. I've grown up in it. I grew up in a healing center. I've been around it my entire life. And also being able to see energy. So when people talk about cutting things out of their life, or cutting cords with people, or cutting parts of themselves away because they don't want to accept or tolerate that in their lives anymore, I still see that as a blind spot. And I'm not saying this is you, Nina, at all. It's just flag this up to make it really, really clear that you cannot cut energy. If you have a laser beam and you can't cut it, right? If we have cords between us of a soul contract or a disharmony where we're both being triggered, that cord is attached at both ends inside of the person being triggered and the person activating the trigger. The cord is between them. And you can't just cut it and think that the activated part is going to disappear, because it doesn't. The original cause still remains, and we'll just go around and find somebody else who's got the trigger, and it will just activate again and again and again and again. And we can't cut part of ourselves away, or we can't cut anything out of our world, because we're all on the same world at the end of the day. We can have an idea that we do, but in reality, it doesn't actually work that way. So what needs to happen is the harmony. And some people have skills to create that harmony, and some people don't, which is what I hear you saying, Nina. Some people, they don't yet have the skills, they don't yet have the awareness to self-reflect. And so, yes, we must not tolerate that, you know, put ourselves into harm's way. And if somebody is harming, they need to be, you know, contained safely in some way, so as to restrict the harm that they do to other people. Absolutely. But still, that's a human being, which is part of the collective soul of humanity, which is actually part of our own soul. And it still needs the love and the compassion. And it's just, I think it's just really important what, you know, what you said. Yes, it's not okay. And to protect, and to, yes, not, you know, not choose to have that in your life anymore, and making the choice is super important. But also coming back in and checking with ourselves and go, what in that person's behavior triggered me? Why did they show up in my life in the first place to trigger me? Because maybe I've still got a wound, or a partly unhealed wound, that reacted to that. Because what I notice in myself is, when I have cleared a wound completely, I no longer have any of this coming into my world. It just doesn't arrive. Because I'm not sending out any unhealed signal. I haven't got a loose connection looking for somebody else's connection to get completion. Does that make sense? So it's really important. I feel, and this is, I'm not saying this is you, but it just raised this. It's so important to understand any reaction or trigger we have. It's really important to look within, to forgive the other person, understand their pain, make a choice that you don't want that in your life, but also look within and see where something is still unhealed and perpetuating within. And love, and we've talked about this every single time, I think. Love and forgiveness, you know, it's always love and forgiveness, and compassion that does that healing above all. And I believe that we'll all, to me, there's a mass, what do you call it, like a certain number, a certain mass of us who have done the clearing. So I feel like energy is more wisely invested, instead of engaging with the external, and because that's the 4D, is just actually re-engage with self, do the healing and the clearing within. And I feel like that's the most empowering, most responsible act of cleanup that we can do, is just clean up our own yard. And when we are clean, we literally do not vibrate and attract in that resonance anybody else into our world.
And also have a curiosity, like, oh, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead, Chrissy.
Well, I know Jenny wants to speak, but I'll just be very quick. Just have a curiosity. Okay, so when all this comes up, instead of immediately going no, or bashing out or lashing out or whatever, just have a curiosity of, wow, look at what I'm doing. Look at what feelings are coming up for me. And we tend to judge this as in, oh, no, I can't have these feelings. Oh my God, if anybody knew what I'm feeling right now, that's totally unacceptable. But no, instead, just go, wow, look at me. I've got the most darkest thoughts ever right now. I feel like killing this person, you know, and just sit with that for a while and just allow these thoughts to come up and just understand that that's a very human condition. Jenny?
Yeah, thanks, guys. What I was really feeling into that originally from what you were sharing, Chrissy, is, and you know, let's broadly call this millennial attitude non-age specific, because that shows up everywhere. The disconnect that Tara spoke into, the original disconnect. What I'll often do when I'm actually directly working with people in that space, often you hear a lot of words. There's a lot spinning in the mental body, and they have a really tight ass. So they're walking around with a busy head and butt cheeks clenched and totally like snapped off, you know, constipated when it comes to relating to mama. So, you know, because I'm a body worker, it's like what I'll do is I mirror in my body. I take my body as deep and as rooted and as broad and open and connected to the earth. And if I feel them starting to scramble even more and it starts to accelerate, I know I'm in the right place. So energetically, what I get them to do often is to flip it. You know, when we have an extreme behavior, you can swing the pendulum, you flip it. So I will literally get them to stick their head up their own arse and have a look. You know, what is in there? What is in there that you are avoiding by spinning so much out of your face? Let's just take, you know, like the snake eating its own tail. Let's take ourselves into that space and meet what's there. Wow, you know, what is in that space? What tools, what compost, what mulch, what, you know, delicious new life is actually waiting for you to come into relationship with. And usually when people move into that space, they are so relieved that they have found something good within themselves that they thought only held bad shit. And yes, I'm referring it to places in the body because that helps us actually go, we're talking about stuff which is of a dense energy, the lower chakras in the body, more in the density energy. And, you know, particularly within the light workers at the moment, we're seeing a lot of keep me above the solar plexus energy. Let's not talk about anything below the belt. So this is coming up for everybody, even when they've been in the healing arts and crafts for decades. And I just feel for us to really go deep I just feel I want to present my own shadow right here. Like I want to speak into her. I want to just share her here because otherwise it's just words. We're talking around it. And I feel I want to introduce that place in me to help people connect to, it's that kind of energy in me.
Bring it on.
Yeah. So part of my shadow, and she's huge, like it's really big. I could go there. This is my work. So a lot of my shadow it's a knife edge we all walk. Do we know what our edge looks like? Do we know when we behave in our most angelic form? And do we understand when our back's against the wall, when we feel threatened, when we feel insignificant, like we don't matter on the planet? That is how I will behave the other way. So my shadow, if you like, is the part of me that says, come here, come here, come here. Let me heal you or work with you, or I might annihilate you. So come here because I understand life and death. Come here, I may work with drawing your soul into your body, or I may, if I'm having a really, really dark day, I may gently rip your soul out of your body. So I want to officially introduce my shadow right here and how it has been and how it has played out over many times. I have deep technology about how to help souls embody into their physical body because I know how to rip souls out of their body way beyond death, way beyond death. So that's me. That's a very small portion of my shadow. And because I know it and love it, I am able to use the gift safely in the realms of humanity. I'm able to use it with integrity. I'm able to use and work with my service with no resentment, no deficit in my energy field, because it is done from a place of love and inclusivity of other people's shadows as well as my own. And I can walk anybody now to that edge of where annihilation and life are just in that hanging in the balance. So yeah, fourth dimension, home, bring it on. You know, it's a comfort zone in that density now to work with beautiful humans. And you know, I've come from absolutely hating humans and hating my own humanness. So the shadow work has brought me so deeply into the deepest love and compassion for where all of humanity is at right now. Yeah.
Well said, Jenny.
Jenny, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I feel like we should all share our shadows.
Thank you. That would be very real.
Well, I will share mine. My shadow, part of my shadow is that I have this part of my inner child that wants to be loved by everyone and wants to, seeks approval. And because of that, it kept me in very abusive relationships, very much the empath and the narcissist, because that shadow part would seek out the one person in the room. If 95% of those people loved me, it would go to the 5% who said, "You're shit, you're this, you're stupid, you're lazy, you're ugly." It's actually like exactly the words that my ex-husband just said to me. So nice, huh? It's amazing how we do that. And a great gift, because it finally released me from finally seeing it so clearly. And it's very ancestral for me. It goes back to my father, who, no matter what I did, it was never good enough. But he was also the one that sexually molested me, so it was very confusing. I will abuse you sexually, this is love, but I won't give you attention and intimacy, and actually you're a piece of shit. That's very confusing for a child. So what it has caused me to do was to go try to find that familiarity, mostly through men, but also in female relationships and friendships, and allow myself to be verbally or emotionally or psychologically abused. So part of my shadow that came up for me with, and I realized it too immediately, even though I was like, okay, I'm not going to allow this abuse to continue. I realized that what was being triggered for me was I felt betrayed and a bit abandoned with how things were handled in, this is so funny, but on that page, I felt like I was being ganged up on. And I felt, and Chrissy, I'm just saying this, I felt absolutely like you didn't have my back at all. And I felt really confused because I felt like I was holding the container for the group, which Paula had presented as this is what's accepted here and this is what's not accepted. And I just felt completely alone. And I was like, okay, so everybody's turning on me. So I went in and I did my own work. And it was amazing because overnight of just doing my affirmations, reconnecting to God, going into prayer, seeing that little part of that little child that I was like, I love you and you're so amazing. And I am also not going to let you be abused anymore. And it's okay. It's okay for you to not let that into your life anymore. And what those people are saying has nothing to do with you. And they're wounded too, just like you're wounded, as we're all wounded, and it's okay. And the next day I got like so much random love and support from people in my life and from random women. And today I woke up and I just felt like, oh, like a layer had left. And then Magenta kind of jumped on that page and she was like, I completely agree with you, Nina. I completely support you. And I just realized, wow, that was in a way because the Matrix knows our weakness. It knows our shadows. And I think people should know that too. And so I was like, wow, that was really set up to attack me perfectly, to cause me to go, wait a second, am I not supported in this? Am I being attacked by everyone? Because it knows my path. It knows what I've been through. It knows my weakness. It knows all of our weaknesses. It knows how to get us to trigger each other. So that's what I wanted to share. It was a beautiful opportunity to just get more connected and grounded, and that connection to Creator, God, Source, and go, it's okay if I feel abandoned by the tribe. I still have to walk and speak my truth and know that I'm in integrity with you, Creator, God, Source. And that's really all that matters. It's not a popularity contest.
Thank you, Nina, and thank you for mentioning what you said. And just, to continue on that, is that I've been told before by females that I haven't had their back before. It's been an ongoing thing for me in my life. So this is not the first time I've been told this. And my need for speaking my truth is so strong inside of me that it will go beyond having the back of my friends or the tribe or whatever. I'm not saying that that is a good thing. I'm not justifying myself right now. I'm just saying this might or might not be my shadow. I don't know, but my need to speak my truth at all times always supersedes whatever, you know, sisterhood I'm in. And that's probably also why I'm not that popular with most females. So I'm hearing you, and I'm really sorry, Nina, that you felt that, and I really feel you in this. But I just wanted to let you know that this is where I was coming from, and it was never a personal thing to you. It was just me going, am I being truthful or not right now? Like that. So I just wanted you to know that, and that I very much appreciate who you are.
Thank you. I very much appreciate who you are too. And I got that message before I got on today. It was like, oh, she didn't do that. She didn't do that on purpose. And it's all, I knew we would probably talk about this today. So,
well, this is it. This is the great things about, yes, absolutely. And while I'm talking now anyway, and we're talking about shadows, I want to share one of my current shadows, because there's so many. But one that's currently really coming up is that I sometimes really think I'm on my high horse. And especially when it comes to my heart being closed to not so much my heart, it could be just my lower chakras. I feel sometimes that I've closed off my lower chakras, so I don't have to deal anymore with the nitty gritty of heartache. And so when people ask me, like, would you like another relationship in the future? My first answer is always no. You know, and there's a kind of an arrogance behind it as well. It's like, no, I don't need that. My life is so good. Like, why would I want to open my heart and everything to receiving another male in my life? And that answer is so automatic and so quick. But sometimes I'm like, wow, you're very quick to answer. Like, is that actually really, truly your truth? Or are you hiding something? And I've been putting on heaps and heaps and heaps of weight. And I really had to look into that in the last few weeks. Like, why am I putting on so much weight in the lower areas of my body? You know, my bum, my thighs, and especially my belly has been just going off the scale. And when I really looked into it, it was like, because I've shut myself down. You know, it's like when you were saying, Paula, about living in only above the solar plexus region. You know, it's like everything is just storing up underneath there. And I think I'm all right on my high horse. But in the meantime, it's just storing up, blowing up like a balloon, blowing up like a balloon. And I've had to really, really look at that. Especially in the last week, I did a juice fast because I was like, I'm going to stop eating so I can deal with the backlog of what's hiding down here. And what I really saw is like, wow, I don't want to receive the male energy anymore in my life. You know, I'm like chicken shit now about opening that vulnerable part of myself as a woman. Mm-hmm. And I'm way in process on that one at the moment. Like, I'm way not there. I feel that it's quite a profound process to go into. And I'm on it. But I have to constantly, you know, be aware of the fact that I'm sometimes just go cognitive dissonant. You know, I just disconnect again, and I'm just like safely in my house, single, without any man around me. You know, so yeah, that's pretty much the shadow journey I'm looking into right now.
And I think you've pressed a little button within Nina's heart space. What's going on with you, love?
I feel like just the Magdalene presence just came in so strongly, and I was just feeling the collective energy of all the women who have felt that, and all the men that feel that, because in this time of isolation where we've been so separated from each other, there's really just such this desire to come back together, and it's so beautiful. So when you were speaking to that, I just felt all the hearts of the men and women that feel that. And that's part of this time of transition and transformation. So thank you for speaking to that.
Thank you for being so vulnerable and showing that we can even be strong when we feel our tears.
Yeah, it's just happening, so I can't control it right now.
Thank you so much.
Well, I'll share my shadow, and I'll try to do it without crying myself, because it's so vulnerable right now in this circle, and that's why we're getting together to help, because if we can clear this for ourselves while everybody is listening, then we can hopefully help clear them as well, which is what we want, right? Shine the light on everything so it can be lifted. So I'm gonna bring it down below the belt. I'm gonna bring it down below the belt, and this is something I noticed I did yesterday, and I did this to myself. This is about being unkind to the self. I'm with my husband, and my husband, one of the good things, talking about men in this process for me, I have noticed my husband has the most glorious heart. So beautiful. And that's a gift to be able to see that part of him, because it's, I feel very blessed that he's a part of my life, and he is, we've been together for 28 years. And he's a first responder, so God bless him. And anyway, so I noticed yesterday, I had put my hair up and I put a shirt on, and I looked in the mirror, and I seriously looked in the mirror, and I said to myself, you look like a fat, ugly ditch pig. And I was like, where does that come from? In that moment, right, I'm looking at myself in the mirror, and I'm like, and I actually stepped up the stairs, and I said to my husband, I said, wow, I can be so mean to me. And he goes, what do you mean? And I said, well, I just looked in the mirror and I called myself this ugly, fat ditch pig. And I said, I wonder where that comes from. Like, why are we so unkind to ourselves? Right? Why do we compare the way we look to the way we to somebody else outside of us? And so that needs to be healed too, right? If we can't even be kind to ourselves, how on earth can we be kind to our children, to our fellows, to our brothers and sisters, right? So that's a raw one. That was yesterday, I noticed. And it's funny, I'm only crying now. I didn't cry yesterday when I said it, because I'm finding, the glorious part in all of this is that when you are willing to feel it, it feels to me like my higher self steps in immediately, and says, that's not true. That's not true. Or will give me a bigger picture. And it's healed in that instant. Because I didn't have tears yesterday when it happened. It was more of a recognition and an acceptance that behavior is present, and a curiosity, in all honesty. Where does that come from? Where does that unkindness come from?
I'm so moved by all of you right now. I really am. I love you so much. And Nina, I'm really sorry that you felt attacked and alone on that thread. I saw it about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning last night. That's when I first saw it. What? So I'm sorry I wasn't present for that. And I really feel you and you, Chrissy, in all of that. Just trying to be heard. Everyone's just trying to be heard and seen and understood and loved. And it's just, it's painful, but it's also so beautiful. And Chrissy, when you shared, oh my goodness, like, I mean, Paula, I can completely relate to you as well, darling. When you can see that, when we perceive ourselves as ugly in a mirror, I live with that for most of my life. I can completely understand with that, and I love you. I'm sorry that you had that still coming up, but Chrissy, when you mentioned you disconnecting from the masculine, I just had so much pain come into my heart for you, and I can completely relate to this as well, because actually recently I've been having an experience of being able to go in and heal my wounds with the masculine. And I feel like I've done years and years of personal self-care and personal love around healing my wounds of abuse, of rape, of all kinds of stuff. I'm feeling completely unworthy, completely like I'm nothing, ugly, just unloved, like epitome, just absolutely desolate and unloved, in the wrong world, not meant to be here, not meant to be alive. I want to die. I want to just, and not die as in, you know, end life, but just get off planet, just be away from humans. and feeling very, very unprotected by the masculine and the feminine and just the whole thing. So I guess my biggest wound comes back to that sense of disconnection. I wanted to disconnect completely with humanity, with emotions, with feeling, with sex, with men, with anybody, with love, you know, humans, the way that they do love on this planet. I didn't want to be part of it. And so in recent times, like, even though I've done so much of my own healing, I felt like I got to a point where I couldn't grow anymore until actually I came into communication with the other, with the masculine. And I suspect that, like many of us, we've done our therapy or whatever, and we've healed what we need to heal. But how often do we get a chance to heal it in communion and in communication with a representation of the other, or with the other who has actually triggered us? And that's been a missing piece for me. There's been a lot. I've had every kind of abuse in my relationships, and I felt so unworthy and unlovable, and I've completely changed that. However, there was still that opportunity of going, this is my next level of learning. There's so much more for me to embody here. There's so much more to actually let a man in, to my heart, to my emotions, to my mind, to my soul, and to my body. Right? And let him into my body in a way that I'm fully receiving, and not just connecting from my body and going, well, you can take my body, but you can't have me. Fuck you. You know what I mean, girls?
Yeah.
So, because that's been my protection. Like, well, you're abusing all these other parts of me because I can't own me. I wasn't strong enough to own me. And therefore I let you, because I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't have the tools. And that's not true anymore. I know how to deal with it. I own me. I have the tools. But now bringing that into communication, into relationship, is a whole another trip. And I've not been able to do that before. And it's really brought up my suspicion. You know, I suppose in my shadow is I have abilities to see, and I've been called a white witch, and I have, you know, certain things that I can do. And on the flip side of that, obviously, is a potential for me to use it for harm, is a potential for me to go, I'm going to fucking cut your head off. You know, I'm going to slay you. That Kali Yuga energy that comes through, you know, the wounded, like the dark. My kids call me Tara Dark Perry. It's quite funny. We have a laugh about it. No, when you have the supreme queen bitch that can come in and slay with the precision of the scalpel, like you said, Jenny, right? You can heal with the precision of a scalpel, or you can cut someone to pieces with the precision and decimate them and, you know, rip their soul out of their body, like you said. And it's like, yes, I could do that. And it's only my fear and my need for love that will raise that in me, right? And so to be able to be present with that and present that to someone else and go, yeah, I fucking thought you were crap, and I wanted to cut your head off. You know, I'm scared of letting you in because I think that you're going to abuse me, you're going to trick me, you're going to manipulate me, you're going to be the snake in the grass instead of my shining, you know, knight in shining armor, or my God that I've wanted. And it's terrifying to let another in. Terrifying. However, I find that with anything scary, anything dark, anything where you just want to run away and go the other way, is to actually just, again, I keep coming back to this, but stand in it and breathe. And like you said, Paula, what's the real truth? Where is my reaction? Is it that person? Is it him, or is it me? And to have the discussion and to open those doors. And that's my greatest wish for humanity right now, that through the healing of ourselves and through loving ourselves, we can then open the door to the other and this divide, this separation, the opposing force of the masculine and the feminine, the man and the woman. For me, when I look at it through my lens, that's the oldest war on this earth. It's not between colors and races, it's between the genders, it's between the sexes, because that other, when we fully let them in and we love them, can do the greatest damage. And so we can totally project our shadow onto the other and use our shadow instead of being in the love. And so to be able to, and I wish peace between men and women on this planet. I wish for the unity of masculine and feminine, first within ourselves, and then when we're ready and we're strong enough to then meet the other, because we've gained the communication skills, we've gained our power, we've gained the ability to love the unlovable within ourselves. So can we love what we thought was the unlovable in somebody else and mend those bridges and heal that rift, heal the divide, put the two halves of the heart back together again, put our souls back together again, and just, oh my God, and go to those shadows and just breathe in it and be willing to stay and be willing to have that conversation. How can we transform this to love?
And then when we talk about love and expanding our consciousness and coming to the sacred neutral, as we were talking about last time we got together,
yeah.
This is where that shadow side is present, but we choose not to operate that way. We choose not the ego mind. We don't choose to operate from the small self. We choose to operate from the higher self, the higher mind, the high heart. And we can be completely accepting, right? And shine light on that which is before us, no matter how it presents, no matter how ugly it may present. It needs the light of love to help illumine perhaps what we have not seen before. But we need to be able to witness the one before us beyond how they present. Can we see the God and the divinity in them in spite of their behavior? Because whenever people are attacking, there's always fear underneath it. And as you know, girls, we've talked about this before. Fear is a liar. Fear is an absolute liar, because for that brief moment we had fear, like I had yesterday, right? Maybe it wasn't fear. I think that's actually old. That's from an old relationship. Like, I know exactly where that came from. When you're told often enough that you're not pretty and you shouldn't be wearing shorts and you're not whatever, you begin to believe it, which is a silly thing, because it's just an idea. We've agreed to an idea that's not even true. And so this is a great segue, Jenny. Perhaps you can share that when folks have not dealt with their shit, their own traumas, their own hurts, their own contamination, self-contamination, because what I just shared with you would be, that is a self-contaminating thought for me to think that I am that way. That is ridiculous. It's not true. It's never been true. But if it's not dealt with, expressed in a healthy way, those things get buried in the tissues, buried in the body. Maybe you can, would you like to touch on that when we don't deal with our shadows, not only are we hurting our fellows and concretizing the very thing that we don't want, we're contaminating our own divine, perfect body.
Yeah, beautifully spoken, Paula. As you share that, and I'll often do this with kids as well, because my own children, but adult children as well, it's that feeling of what is your own personal elephant in the room. And I have a little elephant. I have big elephants and little elephants. And, you know, it's like, what is the place where I shield myself from, where I am shielding and protecting my inner child, or the place, as Tara shared, where my inner masculine and feminine start rubbing up against each other, whatever that might be. So actually placing something in the room and looking at everything. Chrissy, I think you spoke in the week about perspective, the zoom in, the zoom out. how can I give myself an altered perspective of my own personal elephant in the room? If I look at it face on, if I look at it from the side, if I flip it upside down, what is that looking like? So to sometimes see it externally, because most of us are very disassociated around this part of ourselves. To let it speak, what color is the elephant in the room? What emotion is the elephant in the room holding? Does it feel like it needs to charge, or is it retreating into a corner and trying to hide under a rock? Is it really frightened? And kids are amazing at being able to speak into their personal elephant in the room and let it share. What does it think? It thinks I'm ugly. It thinks nobody likes me. It thinks I should be bullied because I'm such a bad person. Kids can get it. They can speak into the elephant in the room. And then it's like, can we get a little closer? Can we get a little closer? What does this elephant in the room need from you right now, if this is a part of you? And most children and most adult children will actually choose to become the caretaker of what that part of themselves is. They choose. They might say, it needs to be out in the sunshine. It needs to be wrapped in a blanket of love. Or some might say, and I've had this before with a child who is very, very, very deeply abused, it needs to be burnt in the fire so it can rise out of the ashes as something new. So, that is a way, and anyone who's listening to this, you may be able to start to walk yourself towards your shadow in a way that feels safe, And Paula, what you shared about where it lives in the body, I will often get people to say, and where are you feeling that now in your body? What part of your body has really come online and really feeling that? Because, the challenge in intimate relationships, Tara and Chrissy spoke into this today. If we are not able to go to these places within us, we sure as hell ain't going to let a lover near those places. No way. We will evade, we will dance, we will, avoid, we will contract, we will pull ourselves away, we will take charge to make sure it doesn't go to the place, get the job done. We will take it to a place where we know that our shame isn't going to be dug up, our terror of vulnerability, our terror of our heart cracking so wide open that we might cry for days. So, knowing these places and spaces within the body, and like as we've done here, how different is it when we actually share and speak into it with a beautiful group of women like this? Actually, how safe is it? How safe does it feel to share and speak into this and to feel in real time the emotions that move through us as we draw this in? And it's not that we're deleting and exiting and, like Tara said, cutting. We're not cutting our shadow and placing it away like the proverbial Peter Pan trying to get rid of his own shadow. That's not it. That is to love what I cast. My shadow is what I cast. And can I love the shapes and colors and contours of what I cast in the world, because all of me is acknowledged and loved?
You said that so beautifully, Jenny. Really articulate. I love that.
Thank you, Tara.
I also would love a space for the inner child to speak as well, though. Sometimes I feel like always trying to be in the higher self can actually take us out and avoid. And for me, when I get super vulnerable and just talk like a little kid, like, actually, I feel scared right now, and I don't know if I can trust you. Or like you said, Nina, I don't feel supported right now. That's the inner child speaking. And for me, when I hear the inner child speaking, it just melts me completely. It's disarming. Vulnerability is disarming. Truth is disarming. Truth penetrates more than any. And sometimes this gets to me as like this kind of higher spiritual speak. because it's all up here in the higher chakras, and it's all like, oh, let's be elevated, and that has a place, absolutely, and you know, channeling things in and communicating. But I want to also hold a sacred, safe space with agreements and boundaries. Again, Nina, coming back to that protection of the innocence, protection of the divine child, protection of your little girl or your little boy. And actually that needs a safe, clear, boundaried space. And it needs to be really simple language. This is okay, this is not okay. And I've got you and I love you. And for a space to allow our inner children to really, in very simple, I mean, kids just say it like it is. And personally, I prefer that, because you know where you are when there's no fluff and you just hear this raw, innocent, vulnerable truth. It's heart opening, because it's coming from a place of truth, you know. And so when I hear somebody talking their truth, and it's a little bit on my righteous horse, and I'm waving my sword around of my truth, and it all gets a little bit justified, to me that doesn't feel like truth. That's something else is happening. For me, truth is the vulnerable. Truth penetrates and it stops everything else in its tracks. And I've got all day to listen to that. I haven't got all day to listen to someone banging their drum on about something. That's me personally.
Can I add something to that, Tara? Thank you for sharing that. It's actually, you know, if we really talk about shadows and when they come up, like right now, for instance, what comes up for me is that what bothers me is my poker face. Because even though I'm sharing what's really happening, I'm still not really sharing with you.
Still hold
I
back.
still have a poker face. I still have a grin on my face. I'm still not connected to what I'm talking about. I'm still disassociated when I'm talking about it.
So if we had a round circle where we say pass a stick, because I'm part of a divine feminine circle with women, I have been for 2.5 years, and we raise a topic every week, and we get a chance to hold the talking stick and speak it out, and that does come, but we have a container in which to do that, and there are commitments that we've all made to enter into that container. It's very clear, it's very boundaried, because what comes up, when it's in that container, it alchemizes. It goes into the fire of love and it can be reborn. And so if we were to do this here, then we just set the container to do it. And I would be more than happy to do that. Perhaps we could actually do one like that, because that then to go totally in deep rather than just talking around, which I also find, I think a lot of people are finding really helpful as well, by the way. But yes, to go in, I mean, there's commitments to be made for that, as far as I'm concerned. So it needs to be a sacred space. I don't know, what do you think, girls?
Absolutely. I think it needs to be a sacred space and an agreement amongst all of us that that's where we're headed, and that's what we're going to hold together and allow that vulnerability to come through. And Paula, I just, and I appreciate all of you, and I just really wanted to come back to what you shared, Paula, because it was so resonant with what I just went through in my last relationship. And just as your sister, and I know I don't need to say this, but I just want to reflect to you the golden beauty that you are. Because every time I see you and connect with you, I just see so much light coming through you. And just am like, oh, she's just so beautiful inside and out. And I also relate to, as Tara shared, and I think as we've all felt together, and as I'm hearing so many women right now and men have felt so ugly and so rejected and so made to feel like the ugly ducklings. And like, that just breaks my heart so much. And that's what just brings up so many tears, because I think that's just such a collective wound. But I had this experience, which is really what turned things around for me in that relationship, of finally getting out of it, which is, I remember, like, I just couldn't take it anymore. And I was on a train with him feeling trapped, which is also another part of my shadow. I don't want to be trapped. It was always my biggest fear to get married, because I didn't want to be trapped in a cage like a bird. I didn't want to be caged. I didn't want to have to deal with someone's abuse. I didn't want to possibly ever have someone physically or psychologically or emotionally abuse me and not be able to get out of it. Sarah was trapped. It was like all there. And I couldn't take it anymore. And I got up and I went into the bathroom and I looked into my eyes, and I looked so deeply into my own eyes, and I was like, I love you, and you are amazing, and I don't care what anyone else says. I am going to fight for you, and I've had enough of this, and I am so sorry that I have been believing this narrative that you're a terrible person and that you're not enough of this and you're not enough of that, and I'm sorry. And that's what it was I had to say, I am sorry that I've done this to you, that I took this on. I'm sorry for every time that I have thought these beliefs and truths about you. They are a lie. Please forgive me. Please trust me again. But I love you. And that started, just that, doing that every day, changing that narrative, started to change the entire relationship track. And it was actually what led to me discovering the contracts between us, breaking the karmic contracts, which is what led to being told, okay, now you're free to go, not realizing that he had a choice to make. I mean, I'm sorry, he did have a choice to make. I knew that, but I didn't know what he would choose. He has no desire to work through any of this or take responsibility for anything. So he'll just continue on his path of abusing someone else. I'm taking a different route. You know, that's what we've chosen. But I feel like that is just something that I wanted to share, Paula, because I had to look into it and go, where did that come from? When did that narrative begin? How old was I when I started doing that? Who taught me that? A lot of it for me is connected to my ancestors. A lot of the women in my life that I grew up around were always asking me, do I look fat in this? Do I look okay? A minute on your lips, an eternity on your hips. You know, I've been in like the modeling world and the acting world and the singing world. And I was the one, 10 years ago, sticking my finger down my throat because I thought I needed to be a freaking size 0. And so these ideas of what we need to be that are absolutely inhuman, by the way, and are a part of the inhuman artificial intelligence matrix that has been created, that is not at all part of the human body or the divine creation or the beauty that we were created as. That's where those ideas come from. It is an Illuminati cabal matrix system of comparing ourselves to, well, why don't I look like this artificial thing they don't even look like that. They don't even look like that. They themselves don't even look like that. If you see them in person, they don't even look like that. It's all an artificial template that's been created to cause us to look at ourselves, degrade ourselves, hate ourselves over and over and over. The other piece of this is that when you're a woman with a lot of powerful sexuality and men are intimidated by that, and I love men, I'm not man bashing, but just if you've been attacked for your sexuality, for the power that comes through you, often as a little girl, 2 things happen. You were either, men were intimidated by you, and so, or they were sexually attracted to you. And so that's a huge part of it too, is I'm so sorry, I'm ashamed of my sexuality, or because you're attracted to me, I have to give myself away to you, or I have to pretend I'm ugly so that no one else is jealous of me. And these are these patterns that start to occur. So this has been a lot of my unweaving process within all of this, of diving deep into how I had internalized that and then chosen to create this sort of, they're separate personas that we take on that are those scattered aspects scattered throughout time. And we can, by seeing them, bringing the light to them, bring them back into that heart space of integration and love those wounded aspects into wholeness again.
Nina, thank you so very much. Because one of the reasons that I'm really reluctant to enter in a relationship is because when I look in the mirror, and for instance, I sit on my bed and I look in the mirror, my body is so not what it used to be anymore. You know, I'm 46 now, and it's changed to the point where I look at it and I go, oh my gosh, you know, and I feel so ashamed of my body that the thought of me meeting a man and him seeing my body, it absolutely overwhelms me to the point of like, no, I can never be with a man again. He can never see my body like this. It's so embarrassing. It's so, you know, and this is really, okay, so I'm starting to connect with it now.
We got you, sister.
Yeah.
We got you.
Yeah. It's dominating a large part of my day, actually, the thought of, whoa, what if someone sees me like this? And I'm, as a result, starting to obsess about food, and I'm starting to obsess about, am I doing enough exercise, and what can I do to at least look slightly presentable? You know, like, I'm aware my face hasn't aged much, but I know that my body has, which is really, for me, very strange that my face still looks quite young, but my body doesn't. So then you get like a guy being attracted to you because they see you, and, you know, my clothes hide my body. And I'm like, oh my God, imagine he saw me under, like, what I'm actually like underneath. And then in the recent few days, I've been going, how would I feel if I was a man and I was with me in bed? Would I actually care? And I would be like, no fucking way would I care. Because the energy exchange is what it's about. Like, it truly is about that. It's the energy exchange that gives the feelings of sexuality, of love, of higher love. And so a part of me has been ignited now that understands, hey, it isn't about that. And I feel that I'm slowly on starting to heal out of that. But I'm, like I said earlier, I'm way not there yet. It's that feeling of shame is definitely a journey for me.
I want to jump in here because my partner has been a wonderful teacher. So Nina, thank you so much for telling me I'm beautiful. I'm beautiful. I know that what I said yesterday was not true, which is a good thing. And that would be a testament of my own work, but I know exactly where it came from as well. And my husband helped me heal that, because like I say, when you're told something often enough, we can agree with that idea, which is indeed not true. So what I've learned from my partner, who, as I said earlier, is, I love him so much. They don't even see what we see. They don't even see it. We might say, oh my goodness, can you see this flaw? They're like, what are you talking about? I don't even see it. And in all honesty, you're absolutely right, Chrissy. It's the energy. It's that chemistry. You are blind to everything. And that person that is before you is the most beautiful, divine being ever presented. And plus they have all the girly bits to play with. So they're in Wonderland. Right? You add the energy, add the sacredness to it, right? The willingness to share. And all that is there is beauty. Because I gotta tell you, now we're getting there.
Let's do it.
Since I have invited Source into the bedroom, oh my God. I mean, I'm sorry. The orgasms are, now I feel like I'm almost feeling, oh no, don't say that out loud.
Say it.
The orgasms, they're on demand, like seriously, right? And it's, as the guides would say, we're making love in the upper room, which is the higher level of consciousness. And it feels to me literally like this is creation. This is the explosion of love.
Yeah.
Man, right? When you think about it, it's really, this is not a carte blanche statement. When a man releases with his partner, That is what do they say? Oh God. That's when they find to let their hearts crack open a little bit in that explosion of love. They surrender in that moment to creation. So I said it there. So they only see the
I'm cringing, like, because I'm so in awe that you guys have the courage to say this. I'm so in awe because I'm so prudish. Like, if anyone around me starts speaking about sex, I'm like, no, stop right now, Like, no, what, Tara?
That's not always true.
Not with you, not with you. Not with you. With you, I've been kind of
Chrissy. Yeah, and I hear what you're saying, that kind of, you know, when you were in New Zealand, you were like, no, I'm asexual now. I don't relate to being feminine. And you were just super disconnected. But I know that the inner child in you is so free with her body, and she loves all of it. And she's having so much fun. So the essence of you, your innocence shines out of you. You can still see it in your eyes and your face. And that innocence, that little child in you, so free with herself. And I think that's the divinity, right? We're so close to divinity in our inner child. That's where divinity expresses through. It's innocence. It's exquisitely beautiful. And I find you exquisitely beautiful, Chrissy. Like, I absolutely adore you. And you're just so cute there, wrapped up in your blanket, looking all cute. Yeah. Right? So there is another part of the programming that comes in and tells us about our body. And I hear you. Like, it is something that I literally think every single day. I look in the mirror. Do I look fat today? I look in the mirror. Or should I not eat this today? You know? And I do. And it's a real thing to come in and say, I love you, me. I love you.
And to invite source, like what Paula just said, you know, I find that's the most simple way of doing it. I mean, Paula, you just like gave me such a light bulb moment, you know, it's just like, if you invite that supersedes any kind of lower dense thinking that's stopping us from thriving.
And the other thing too is another thing I've learned from my husband, what we think is attractive as a woman is not what a man finds as attractive. They much prefer maybe a little bit of fullness. Like you said, Tara, you know, put a little bit of weight on. I'm going to tell you this, okay? After I had my first baby, I was a 32A. Let's talk about boob size now, right? 32, I said to God, please, God, can I have some boobies after this baby? All right, so the second baby, right, who's now 20 and 6'4", 34 freaking double D. I should have been a bit more specific with God. My husband thinks it's his birthday every day, and I'm thinking, wow, I could have been maybe like a C would have been okay. I should have been a little bit more specific with the letters and what you asked for.
Yeah, Paula, that's just so beautiful. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, no.
Yeah, it's just so beautiful. It's like, you know, my husband and I, we've been together similar, like 24 years of journeying from some unconscious places to weaving together in incredible spaces now. And that's it. Like, he cracked me the other day, totally cracked me open. It's like in the middle of totally being together and so slow and so in the breath and in the one body, just honoring that, you know, Jen, I can take you to a place now that you can't go on your own. And, you know, that warrior in me is like, fucking, you know, how dare he say that? And then, but oh my God, my body melted and melted. And, you know, our body is so incredible that you know, our yoni, our body opens another chamber. It's like, he cracked me open way more. It's like, come on in, you know, it's like, take me to that space, you know, take me to that space where I can completely surrender and, like you say, allow God into the bedroom. And having that divine masculine presence in a physical body with me, willing to take me to a place where I can completely surrender way, way more, is something exquisite. It's so exquisite. And scary as hell. Scary as hell to honor and feel in those moments all those places that the nervous system would love to recoil and retract. But like Tara said, one breath at a time, one breath at a time. And, you know, sometimes it's like, I feel I am the whole body of woman on the planet. Like I'm holding the feeling of Mother Earth coming into right relationship with the divine masculine. So it doesn't become Father Sky and Mother Earth. It becomes Mother, Father, Sky together, Mother, Father, Earth together in my body in that moment. And like you say, Paula, allowing that Heros Gamos, the sacred union, to explode through the cosmos in that moment.
I love this conversation so much. I'm just amazed and so grateful, because God is my greatest turn on. It's always been that way. And that's why I started saying it's like an experience of heartgasmic bliss. It is a heartgasm. You are orgasming with all of creation. And we have, I guess part of what's going on for me right now is that, you know, there was this huge part of me that was very excited to be getting married, because I am a highly sexual woman. This energy, I mean, I'm turned on right now, and I'm not saying it in like a lower chakra way. It's like I am being turned on through this conversation right now. That energy is flowing. Tara, I know you're feeling it right now too. And that's beautiful. That's absolutely gorgeous thing that we're all igniting each other in that way right now. And what's been so hard and so frustrating for me is that I also know that in choosing a sexual partner, it's so important, because it can also take you backwards. And right now, during this time of ascension, to be with someone outside of a sacred container, or to be with someone who's really not on the same page, just to have that release, to have that physical pleasure, has in the past, has hugely taken me from being a very clear, directed, connected channel to going backwards, because then I'm processing all of their wounds and all of their karma through my body. And I know I've broken my contracts to do that, but it still happens. It still occurs. And I can't allow that right now at this time. So there's definitely a huge part of me that is like, so I have to move this energy. And so it's been coming out through my work, through my sessions, going to yoga. But there is this deep release and surrender that occurs with another person, and with the masculine and feminine coming together. That is so powerful for both beings, and such a divine gift to the entire universe. I used to joke and say, well, we just saved the world again, because, you know, that's how it feels sometimes. You've just brought heaven to earth through that divine sexual union and connection. So I love that we're speaking about this also, because for so many women that have had sexual wounding, molestation, and rape, and men too, I know this is highly controversial, but one of the things that I work with them is to bring Christ into that space. And especially in the midst of sex, to reclaim that space as Christ did, to reclaim their pleasure as Christ did, to enjoy the physical pleasure, to enjoy the orgasm. We are orgasmic beings. That is so real. All of creation is constantly orgasming with all of creation. And when I can connect to Gaia and Heavenly Father within me, they unify in my heart, even without another person. And I experience this tantric union within my own being. I've yet to experience that with a man. And that's what I want, because I can do that myself. So what I really want is to be able to have a man to meet me in that space. And I don't want to just be going for like the physical pleasure, because it's not what I want anymore. It needs to be all levels. So I don't know where, I just wanted to share that though, because I think I know a lot of women and men that are out of relationships right now have been discussing their sexuality with me and saying they're feeling this huge shift where they so badly feel that full union. And yet when they can't get it from the person that they're with, or the person that they're really attracted to, something in them out of integrity is like, no, I can't. But those human needs are still going, oh, like we're being shut down and isolated, and I just miss touch, and I just miss intimacy so much, and I'm like young and vital and beautiful and so ready to go. Like, why hasn't it happened? That's really freaking hard.
Surrender.
Yeah.
It's like the longing is more powerful than we are to resist it. But still we kick and scream all the way, you know? And I feel like there's a fundamental longing between the divine masculine and the divine feminine, and that co-creates existence, the longing for the other. And so that is embedded, that was conceived into us, into our making of that divine union, that marriage of heaven and earth. I completely hear what you said, Jenny. I feel like that too, absolutely, in my body. And like, yes, I'm saving the whole world by being in complete communion with that, because we are the world. But there's a longing in a man and there's a longing in a woman. And I talked about it yesterday, the importance of this polarization into the masculine and feminine, the man and the woman, just to really, and it's not about identity, it's about the sacred chemistry of creation being honored, and to actually surrender as women to our own sacred chemistry, to the crucible of creation that draws us back in, and the longing to merge with the other. We're designed that way. It is a longing. It is an absolute need for unity consciousness on this planet to manifest, because it manifests through us. So how do we surrender to the longing and get past all our shadows and fears and pains and wounds and want to fight and all of that stuff? How can all of us just completely surrender, recognizing that, and fall in love with the longing for the other and say, okay, I let go. I let go. How incredible. I've actually been experiencing that, and it's blowing my mind.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you, everybody, for sharing everything that they've shared. Feels especially raw today. And I think raw and real is important. We need to be real and authentic. And I want to bring it back to the shadow, because we're getting close to our 2-hour mark. So I want to invite everybody, with your permission, ladies, as we have this sacred circle open. For everyone that's listening, since we're talking about the shadow, I want to invite you to think about a person in your life that you wish you would never, ever want to see again, that the shadow side of you has chosen to hate them or debase them or dislike them or blame them into something that they have done or been or whatever that they have done. And imagine that in that altercation that you had with them, however many years ago, or if it was last night, this morning, or a month ago, and imagine that because you had an altercation with some hatred exchanged, that they are lost in shadow, that they are in the darkness. And what I'm asking you to do now is, can you imagine that you've put them in a cave? Can you open up the boulder that covers that cave and lead them out into the sunlight, into the light of love, so that they can be reclaimed and reknown in a higher way? Because the light shines upon all. Everything is blessed and lifted to the light, to be re-seen, reknown, and reclaimed in a higher way. And imagine what it feels like to gift another with their true liberation. walk them out into the light,
Mm.
into the perfect amount of light that they need to see, whether it be a little dim candle because it's so bright and they can't see, dim it down a little bit so that they can find their way out of the darkness. And I would bless you for your courage, because compassion and forgiveness is acceptance. It doesn't necessarily mean agreement, or that you condone a behavior, or it dismisses what you experienced through that challenge. But the courage to forgive has more power than anything to condemn or to debase. I think Tara and Nina are bringing out many, many people, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing.
I'm just thinking, may all souls be free. How
Exactly.
beautiful to bring everyone into the light together, and we go, oh, I blamed you for my pain, and you hurt me because of your pain, and we hurt each other, and we're all hurting, and let's come out into the light together and all be free. So beautiful. Thank you, Paula, for sharing that.
Mm. I'm feeling everyone that's doing this with us right now, and just feels like a huge collective stepping out into the light together, and a lot of forgiveness coming on right now. Yeah, so thank you for that invitation, Paula.
We're powerful when we come together as women, huh? We amplify each other, like you said, Jenny. So beautiful.
Thank you, ladies. Don't
Thank
disappear.
you, Jenny.
We're thanking everyone for coming today and for listening. God bless you. We love you.